DOZHATOLDYA.COM. Today we have a treat. Dame Doja of DOZHATOLDYA.COM. You guys may know me, but I have a treat. Special guest to talk, that came here to talk with us on the roll up today. Special guest, very, very, very dear to me. Like you know your family, right?
I know. Trust me. We go way back. Way back.
Most of the time, she calls me Dad.
It's because I respect you. That's
but it's only gray hair. It's only gray hair. Most of the time, that was like a name that I got as what you say, respect.
Yes. Always looked out.
Yeah, I do that from time to time.
You do that from time to time, and you are appreciated. I've never forgot it.
And I appreciate you just for your spirit.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
So, Jodie Smith is our guest today. Author of Flowers in the Attic and
Flowers in the Garden.
Oh, I'm sorry. Flowers in the Garden.
Yes.
And the Book of Real Shit.
Yes.
The Book of Real Shit.
That's
and what besides being an author, like a mother.
Yes. Which is number one.
Which is number one.
Yes.
A mother, a sister, an artist in your own right.
And I'm sensitive about my shit.
Poet, author. Am I missing anything?
Life coach.
Life coach.
I did get my certification as a life coach, and just the being of light, being of God.
Oh man.
That's the main thing right there.
Just overall beautiful spirit. Come in the room and light it up.
Yo.
Jodie Smith, welcome to the show. I'll just clap for you.
Hi guys,
I'll
I'm
just
so
clap for
happy
you.
to be here. We've been talking about me coming on for so long.
Yes, for so long.
I am so happy to be here, talk about love, light, life, depression, anxiety, all of that.
Well, before we go that deep, let's just start from the beginning.
Okay.
Where are you from?
Originally, I am from Toronto, Canada. Both my parents are from Jamaica, left Jamaica, went to Canada, had the kids. My mom got remarried, and that's how I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida, Duval County.
She got remarried and moved to Jacksonville?
Yes,
From Canada?
From Canada. We went from one of the coldest places to one of the hottest places, and my stepdad was in the military at the time at Mayport, so we moved to Jacksonville.
And how old were you when you first got here?
I was 10 years old.
I was good.
Yeah, I'm 34 now, guys.
I wasn't going to say all that. I wasn't going to
I'm still young, okay? You're as young as you.
Yeah, you look great if you are that old.
I am 34.
Allegedly.
July 16, 1987. Goes by fast.
So, a Canadian
Yes.
in America at 10 years old and Jamaican.
Yes.
How was that coming to Jacksonville? Did you enjoy Jacksonville when you first moved here? Were you homesick?
Definitely homesick. It was such a transition because growing up in Toronto, which is such a melting pot, everyone's from somewhere. Like in class, I grew up with a lot of people that were from Japan, that were from China, that were Trinidadian, that were African, Jamaican, Polish. I grew up with so many different cultures, and then I come to Jacksonville, and it's pretty much just like white, black, Hispanic, and maybe a few Asian. So it was so different for me. And then when I got here, everyone's like, oh my God, you talk so white. Oh my God. Like it was so, I hated it. Hated it. I used to actually draw on the walls, like saying I wanted to go back home. And Mom was like, you write on my walls one more goddamn time. And over time I got used to it. Like, you know, now I love Jacksonville. I was raised here, so I'm so used to the culture, used to the people, but it definitely was a different transition.
And I can imagine, but so they said that you talked white.
Yes, yeah.
I've
always heard that.
You never had a Canadian accent or a Jamaican accent that you had to
I think when I first got here, allegedly they always say Canadian people, after everything, we always say A. So I think when I first got there, I naturally did that, but over time I've been here for so long, that's no longer there. But because I wasn't raised in Jamaica, I don't really have a Jamaican accent, but I definitely did say A after a lot of things, but now it's kind of worn off.
And how often do you go to Jamaica? Do you guys, were you visiting often?
Yeah, well, my dad, after living in Canada for about, I would say 25 years, my dad moved back maybe about 15 years ago, built a house in Jamaica. So typically try to go back there like once a year. Also go back to Canada once a year. So most of my family's either in Canada, Jamaica, or Jacksonville. So we do try to get back at least once a year. COVID, of course, has limited that, but you know, once Jamaica opens back up, definitely one of the first stops I will be going to.
Okay, and I became very, very good friends with your brother.
Yes, Max Cope. Shout out to my brother, the love of my life, my little Liam.
He's my first co-host doing this podcast thing. Me and your brother.
That's how I met you.
We were just trying to figure out ways of promoting ourselves, and I still talk about getting with old Max Coke and redoing the Coke and Doja show.
You guys should.
We were like just so ahead of our time.
You guys really were. Yeah.
And
still are in a sense, though.
Yeah.
Very much so.
That's kind of our thing. That's kind of our thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of just being trendsetters and just kind of just moving forward. But he used to always talk about his sisters and how his friends. I mean, you guys are beautiful. Like, so he had these beautiful sisters, and his friends will always ask about, when's your sister? Where's your sister? This and that. And so I've always I used to hear about you guys a lot, right? And then I'm in Tallahassee, going to school. And did you go to FAM for a while?
I did go to FAM. Yep. That's how I got to Tallahassee. That's why I was in Tallahassee, is for school.
So, you know, I've heard about you. I don't know if we met before Tallahassee, but definitely in Tallahassee is where we became acquainted and became friends. And you were in a bit of a transition out of school, or
yes.
Tell us about that.
That
time in your life.
Initially, when I first graduated from high school, I went to FIU in Miami. I always wanted to live in Miami, going to school there. I was kind of homesick because it was so far, so I transferred to FAMU. So initially, that's why I was in Tallahassee. And when I met you, I was going through such a significant transition. I think my grandfather had just passed away during that time. I dropped out of school. And when I met you, this is why I always call you Dad, because you were working at the Plug. And
Shout out to the Plug
in Tallahassee. If you know, back in like 05 or 06, that was the place to get your CDs, your DVDs. But you would let me come work there, and you would buy me a meal. Like, you'd always make sure I ate, and I always appreciated that. Never forget that. Just because college is such a difficult time. Oh my gosh, like, whew. Shout out to all the college kids going through it. I know what you're going through, because that was a rough time, having $12 to live off.
But Tallahassee, I mean, isn't it wonderful the things you did in Tallahassee? Like, basically the small budget that you probably was used to working with in Tallahassee. And now you
$12 went a long way, I'm telling you. Oh my God.
I could get 3 or 4 meals by going to McDonald's and getting 2 things or 3 things off the dollar.
I used to save those cups, like the McDonald's cup, the large iced tea cups, and I'd save them and go back and get drinks. Like, that's how poor I was. That's how I know God's real, just looking at my transition from then to now. But when I met you, I was going through depression. My grandfather just passed, but car had just blew up. I had a Jetta at the time. Literally, whole engine dropped out of the car. On the side of the road, people running to my car. And eventually, I got a job that actually gave me a car. And I dropped out of school. I was like, gosh, I'm making good money now. I really don't need to go to college, whatever the case may be. So when I met you, I was in like one of my down points in life, for sure. And you definitely helped me through that. So I'll always be thankful. And then I moved back to Jacksonville. I had a good job. The job gave me a car. I was on the up and up. And had to move back home, which is not something that I particularly wanted to do, but the blessing came in that form, so I had to, transition.
You had to make it happen.
I had to make it happen, child. I got a little money, so.
Well, going back to those days, initially, like, okay, we had the mixtape store, and we
Yeah.
needed interns. And I don't know how it came about, but it was. I think your brother may have contacted me and told me look out for my sister, this and that. And
Well, he'll always do that.
And then it was like, okay, all right. And you came in, and it was like, okay, she'll be a great intern. But we were going through, at the store, we were going through growing pains, and we needed, me and Shed probably would, my business partner at the time, and also like a brother. He's doing awesome.
Oh my gosh, hello there,
just
sir.
talked to him yesterday. But we needed woman presence in the store. We needed someone that was just bubbly, smart, get along with people, and then you just popped up. And it was like, okay, hey, write on these CDs. Sit here behind the cash register, and just, that was like your first job.
Yeah.
It was like, here, write on these CDs. I'm about to order us some food.
Yep, Olene's. Shout out to Olene's.
So, I order us, lunch, and you really didn't speak about being in whatever situation that you were going in. You didn't wear it. And I do that too. Like, we can have the weight of the world on our shoulders, but we always figure out a way to smile, right? And I had no idea until, like, I think you moved back to Jacksonville, and then you were just whenever you would talk to people about me, you were like, man, he saved my life. I was so poor.
I was hungry, yeah. I'm telling you, there were days when I was hungry, and I always say, like, the things that you go through, it's never for you, it's for you to share with other people. But I remember days being hungry, like getting changed to just buy a Black and Mild with me and my homegirl Amina. Like, it was a very difficult time. That's why I always say you never know what people are going through. And I also don't tell people, because it's like, you're going through shit too. You know what I'm saying? There's no need for me to weigh you down with my, troubles, because that's how I am. When my friends tell me things that they're going through, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to pray for them all day. It's going to make me feel a certain way. But I always get through it.
But we've always, like, had we had, like, a small world around us to where we would be connected to people without realizing that we were connected to them. Hollywood?
Carnicia?
I think that was her.
Like, Hollywood. I saw her 2 weeks ago. She came here for her birthday. Shout out to Carnicia.
She was a good friend at the time, and she was, just so fabulous as far as that's
still fabulous.
Like,
still fabulous.
Doing hair and making people look good.
Doing makeup.
That's her thing.
Yeah.
And I remember going out a couple of places, right? And I had this, like, relationship with your brother. Mm-hmm. And he actually, hey, look out for this and that. But then over time, it was like basically, I would look at you like a little sister.
Yeah.
But you're a beautiful girl. Everywhere we went, everyone would always ask me, like, who is she? Like we don't want you to come back. Bring her. Is that your girlfriend? Like, what it is? This and that.
It's the energy.
Like, and then some folks would be intimidated, but then some folks would still just, like, it was, you always had great energy, so they would just want to be around.
Yeah.
And if I had $1 for every time someone would ask, why don't you just date that girl that you brought over here? Like, what's wrong with her? What's wrong with her? And I'm like, oh, Jodie.
Always family.
And I admit, like, at first, even when I actually probably even thought about it for a second, it was like you were just so new to Tallahassee, and, like, you were a nice but naive person. Yeah. And it just was like, oh, she's just too naive to even. I don't mean it in a bad way.
At the time,
I don't mean it in a bad way, but I'm just was like, oh, she's just too naive. Like no one is this happy about just, I don't know. It just was weird.
Still happy though. Still, I always say, like, there's a thin line between naive and godly. Like, a lot of things I know, but I won't speak on.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, when people say, like, nowadays, they're like, oh, I match energy. I don't never match energy. If you're not vibrating at a higher frequency, I'm not matching that energy. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of things I know, but I just don't speak on. But when I was 19, I definitely was like, oh my God, everyone's kind, everyone's my friend. But, you know, as you age and mature, like, whew, the things I've learned, let me tell you.
So basically, I just had to throw that out there that I used to get pressured or asked all the time. Like,
and we always hung out too.
So if you, obviously you don't want her, give me her number. And I would be like, no, it's my little sister. Sir. No. Right? And so, you're a great person to party with, though, right?
Still am.
Let me tell you.
Don't party as much as I used to, but I still am.
So let me tell you. So, I've always been a visionary. A lot of folks call me boss or whatever. I basically think about week, month, years ahead. So instead of dating someone like you, I look at my business and things the difference that you can make as far as promoting and even just being with the energy that you bring.
Yeah,
and I was like, this is way more valuable than dating her, right?
Sometimes dating messes things up, for sure.
So I was like, okay, hey, you want to go to this club? I remember I came back home and you were living here and it was like, hey, got this party I was invited to, whatever, and believe it or not, I actually still needed a ride too. So it was like, I don't have a car. You have a car.
What party was this? Which one was it? We went to so many places. Even in Atlanta, we've always went to places.
It was like, I think we did a wine and cheese in Tallahassee. I brought you one time. When you came to Atlanta, we had a house party.
Yeah. Oh, I did come to that house party.
But it was, I want to say, not Stadium Club, but I don't know, one of these parties, Plush or one of the clubs, right? So
I missed that place.
But I can go to an all black party. I can go to a white party with you. I can take you in any environment, and you would find friends. Basically, I felt like it was good fortune would always come my way if I just made sure that you were safe and honored. Basically a friendship, and your brother's like my brother, so it was like, okay, we're family now. But I used to be like, she's bringing me good fortune. You guys might not know,
that is the best compliment I've ever received. But she's
bringing me good fortune. Even just having her around, that was kind of your purpose for me, right?
Wow. That's deep though, and that's why I always say, like, I'm always a kind person. You know, I go through things and I might not speak on it, but at the end of the day, I always remain in a constant state of peace just based on prayer. But that's so kind that you said that. You know what I'm saying? I hope other people in my life feel like that as well. And
so, I mean, you needed food at one point.
I did.
I needed a ride at one point.
Yeah, my rent was I was probably evicted at the time. Probably had $12 to my name. Car blew up taking the bus. What testimony!
So. Woo. There, you basically you helped me, I helped you, and
that's what friends do, man.
We evolved from there. But then I used to frequent this strip club. I think I took you a few times to Mascaras with me, and I was working with Hustle House at the time, and I remember you not having a job, and I was like, well, hey, I know the people up at Mascaras, maybe. Not as a dancer, but maybe, you can do what you did at the plug. Just stand behind the bar.
And talk to people what you did best. At that time, I had gotten a job, moved to Jacksonville. So I was working for the state during the day. And then at this time, this is before I had a child, but I was so on it. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I never want to be as broke as I was before. So at that time, when I was working at Mascaras, I actually worked 3 jobs. I worked for the state. Enrolling people into like their different Medicaid plans. Second job I did like appointment scheduling for like this diagnostic center. Then right after that, I worked at Mascaras as a bartender, and that was the time to be alive in Jacksonville.
It was.
That was a good time.
The nightlife was a lot better.
I would say. It was booming. Oh my God! And I worked like every night.
And we would go from Mascaras, Gold
Silver
Rush, Silver Fox.
Yes. Mirage too.
I said Gold Rush, but it was Mirage.
Yeah, it was Mirage. Yeah, come on, don't forget.
And and like basically, I was working with my boss at the time, who
Yep.
was the owner of the club, and I gave him, I texted him and was like, hey, I have a friend of mine that want to come, that'll be great for the club. Look out for her. Same way that your brother texts me, I text my boss.
Yeah.
Um,
I remember that.
you got the job.
Never bartended in my life at that. Never
What?
have. I have never interviewed for a job and not got the job. Let's say that. I remember I met you up there. I met my boss. Never bartended in my life. Don't know nothing about no sunrise, sunset. Thankfully, a lot of the guys only ordered like Hennessy, Grey Goose, and Cran. So, like, if you're listening to this and you want to be a bartender at a strip club first. Easiest job ever.
Did you ever bartend anywhere else?
I did. I worked at Cleo's for a minute when I moved to Orlando. So that same job that took me from Tallahassee to Jacksonville also took me to Orlando. I transferred to Orlando. So I bartended there for a little bit, but I didn't like the vibe in Orlando. Something about Orlando, I just don't like the vibe. No offense to anyone from Orlando. There's something about the vibe there that's just a little off for me.
And sometimes I felt like that when I was in Atlanta, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, now that we're talking about such a legend in the city, right?
Yeah, my boss, rest in peace.
And how great, well, I'm not going to just say how great, but it was different time.
Yeah, oh my gosh, it was a beautiful time to be president.
So for me, I basically left Tallahassee, but still was pursuing this music thing. I mean, that's just my life.
Yeah.
And I was working with my boss as far as, he was not even the main rapper at the time, but when me and Quan started working with him, we felt like we were developing what would be the next big artist out of Jacksonville.
For sure.
But it wasn't just because my boss, I've had the name of being a boss, had the persona, the money, but he had the biggest heart. Like, he would make sure all of us got in. Like, if we were 40 deep at the club, my boss would wait outside until everyone was in.
Yeah.
I don't know how much he would, if he would pay face card or money, and sometimes he both.
Yeah.
But it's just his genuine heart, and you would never know, like, because I would always be warned. People would be like, hey, watch out, this and that, and I'm like, hey, I don't know what you guys are seeing. I'm not getting that, man.
Yeah.
And I like to believe that you get out what you put in.
I agree.
Right. So if I go into a relationship and I'm genuine, most of the time you
get that back. Yeah. You get what you give.
Could you just basically speak on just the legend,
Yeah.
and how was that just basically? I'm not sure if that was ideal job for you, but maybe you just needed it at the time, and you said that you didn't know how to bartend, but he hired you.
Yeah.
Give me a happy moment about my boss.
Well, I think at that time I was working there just because I had been so poor in college. I just didn't want to go back to that state. But just like you said, my boss had a very special type of energy. He definitely was like a 1 in a million type of guy. And I think people did those things for him, like you were saying, like it might have been the face card. I don't even think it was a face card. I think it was his energy. I always say you always don't ever listen to what people are saying from their mouth. You always listen to their heart. And his heart was just 100. And you don't meet too many people like that. But just a funny story. I always quit mascaras. Always. Just because it was like guys drinking, like crazy, it was just crazy stuff. Like bartending at a strip club, yeah, it's easy as far as drink wise, but it's a lot.
And it's not you, to be honest. I mean,
it's every strip club. I mean, it's a lot. You gotta have, that's not an industry I could stay in as far as bartending. But I always used to quit. And he would call me like, why do you keep quitting? I'm like, I'm an energy person. So I'm like, boss, someone's energy there is off. I don't know who it is, but do you ever just feel like people's energy? And he was like, Jodie, I feel like that every day, but you still gotta do what you need to do to get done. I'm like, okay. But he definitely was 1 in a million. I remember bartending, everyone would give you money to change their ones out. So this one guy, I'm not gonna say his name, but you know who you are. He gave me like $500 $100 bills. and I could tell that they were fake. And so I'm like looking at him, I'm like, oh, you trying me? He's like, man, what you mean that's real money? I'm like, bro, this is fake money.
$500.
So okay,
five fake $100 bills.
Yes, 5 fake $100 bills, and then he put 20s beneath it, but the 20s were real, the $100 bills were fake. And I'm looking at him, he looking at me, like you know that meme of Diddy and the guy looking at each other. So we're looking at each other like, I know these are fake. He was like, this is not fake. So boss comes over. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, he's trying to give me fake money. Like, I know this is fake money. And boss looks at me. He's like, bro, really? You gonna try it like that? And he's like, man, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Dang, somebody must have gave me. I'm like, really? But it just shows like how much respect he had. Like, he apologized. When it got real money, he had like, did you think I was like that foolish? I know what money looks like, but just boss coming over there, like his whole demeanor changed immediately. I've even seen him walk over to people full on fist fighting, tussling in the club. And it's just like as soon as he walks over, like the seat parts, and the guys were like, man, boss, I'm sorry for disrespecting.
And he would have this glare. Like he would have glasses on a lot, but if he take the glasses off and gave you the glare.
Oh, you're immediately stop. And working there at that time, it's like you felt comfortable working there because you always knew that you were safe. But even on a Monday, like I made so much money on Mob Boss Mondays. Like on a Monday, like making great money.
I didn't know you were working 3 jobs.
I was working 3 jobs.
You know how many Jamaican jokes that I missed out on?
I swear I'd get off there. I would be at work. I'd probably leave mascaras maybe at 3, wake up to go to my other job at 8. But it definitely was a time to be alive. My boss had like a beautiful energy. Like, you know when people just walk in a room and they light it up? He definitely was one of those people. And I think that's why we took his death as such a loss. Like, you don't meet too many people like that. Like, people, these guys are wishing they had the energy Boss had. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They wish that people loved them like they love Boss. Just like people wish that, you know, they were loved like Tupac. That doesn't happen, you know?
And let me share with you a transition time for me, and as it relates to Boss. So, I was one of the main engineers working with him, but I've always felt like it was always a bigger level that I was chasing.
Yeah.
And so I got invited to move to Atlanta, but I was working with Boss. I'm working with Young Corn. I'm working with Miss Pretty Eyes.
Oh,
and my brother, my cousin wanted me to come to Atlanta, and I remember having a meeting. Before I had the meeting, I had a meeting with one of my proteges, my boss's son. So. The meeting was about, pressure. Yeah. The meeting was about, we were doing okay working with Hustle House, but I was like, look, man, I need something bigger. Yeah. I think that you are destined for something bigger. So we were going to move to Atlanta together. Boss and they were going back and forth to Atlanta, shopping a deal for nephew, and they were going to New York. And we were kind of, at the time, just kind of unknown producers in the studio. That weekend that I moved to Atlanta, I get to Atlanta that Saturday. I get a phone call at 3 in the morning. I got there 12 o'clock that Saturday. I get the calls 3 o'clock from Quan, crying, just broken down. And it was like a night I would never forget in life.
Yeah.
And I remember my cousin, I was like, I gotta go back. It was like, you just moved here. Like, come on, cuz. Like, you can't. I just paid all this money to get you here, this and that. I was like, no, I have to go back. Yeah. I got to bury my friend next week. I'll be right back after.
That was a rough time, man. My brother calls me. I'm like, why are you crying? I'm freaking out. That was a rough time. We actually left mascaras, went to the Silver Fox. So some days we'd go like to the Silver Fox after we got off our shift. And I just remember us waiting for him to get there. I'm like, well, damn, I'm going to go ahead and head out, y'all. Like, and never showed up.
And for a lot of folks in Jacksonville, it has never been the same.
Will never be. Never be.
All friends included that I spoke on, they were never the same.
Never will be.
And
that's a big energy to lose.
Right.
Very big energy to lose.
But the only thing that I had, I was like, well, I left for something bigger.
Yeah.
I came back, buried him, and then I had a meeting with Quan and I was like, look, I'm going back and I'm going to make something happen.
Yeah.
Like, because I can't I'm not going to come back and deal with this. It was just too much. And I was like, look,
it's too heavy.
You're welcome to come. I sent an open invite. I don't have everything under control yet.
Yeah.
But
I'm working on it.
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
And I'll see you guys later. And I told them, look, you guys can stay. You can come. Or if I would stay, Frank may need, like, basically we either need to stay together but things just never kind of materialized. It just wasn't the same for a lot of us. And we all kind of our career paths changed. I moved to Atlanta.
Life changes.
And I've always kept, like, basically the motivation of Frank always says, my boss is my motivation, right?
Yeah.
And that literally was what it was for me.
Yeah.
I moved back, and I was just determined to not come back until I had somewhat of a name for myself. And that's my boss is my motivation, as he is a lot of us.
A lot of people.
And it was a sad story, but it was good to at least be a part of that history.
Yeah.
You know?
He did so much beautiful things, though. He did a lot in the time that he was here. Just to leave, I always say energy never dies, but he definitely was a big energy, and he left a piece of his energy with so many people. And that alone, I think, is an accomplishment.
Yeah.
That's an accomplishment for sure. Like,
so,
that's a legend.
Transitioning from there, did you leave at Jacksonville for a second?
I left Jacksonville for a second. So the same job, my car blew up, gave me a car, got a new job, came to Jacksonville, working 3 jobs. Moved to Orlando with that job. I stayed in Orlando for maybe about a year. Didn't really care for it. Then I got pregnant with my son.
I almost missed the whole Orlando phase. Like, I don't.
It was very brief. Hated it, over it, hated it. Leave Orlando for Disney, okay? And they're forever working on it. Orlando just was not my vibe. But I got pregnant. My son Farrell, he'll be 8 in January. God, it goes by so fast. But I lived there for about a year, and then I ended up moving back to Jacksonville so his dad and I could, be parents and enter that new chapter of our lives.
So Pharaoh,
the young king.
The young king. Like, a name like that.
Yeah.
And the power that it holds. It's all deliberate. I know dealing with a person like you. When you give your son a name like Pharaoh, what do you think?
At that time, for one, I knew he wasn't going to be a junior, and his dad was okay with that because he loved the name Pharaoh so much. He's like, no, I love that name. I feel like you speak life into your children, and what greater way to speak life into your child other than people calling him Pharaoh every day. And Pharaoh certainly acts like a Pharaoh. Oh my God. But I love when people ask me what his name is, and I'm like, Pharaoh. Like, you will have to regard him as such. And I think every time I call him Pharaoh, I feel like I'm manifesting that into his life. And I think a lot of people, I for sure researched the name, and people always reference Pharaoh just on the Bible. Like, oh, Pharaoh was a bad person in the Bible. But if you actually read the Bible, the verse before, God says how he intentionally hardened Pharaoh's heart. And, God had to do that to Pharaoh in order for his plans to come true. So Pharaoh in the Bible wasn't even a bad person. That's a whole nother conversation that we can get into.
Yeah.
But even in the Bible, his name wasn't Pharaoh. Pharaoh is just, of course, the king of Egypt. And also, in Greece, it means forever thankful to God. So
you were visioning the power of manifestation.
For sure.
Putting the right energy, the right purpose into your son.
Yeah.
And now
Pharaoh is Pharaoh.
He starts to embodies it almost.
Oh, for sure. And he is like, I'm always amazed. I do think like being a parent is like such a godly experience, but just seeing him grow, and it's like I don't ever, I want him to do whatever he wants to be. If he wanted to be a cage fighter, I will be that mom front row. If he wanted to work at the zoo, whatever he wanted to do, but I'm just laying the foundation. Whatever Pharaoh wants his house to look like, I'm cool with that. But as long as he has a foundation of love, God, and kindness, I'm good with it. Like, even sometimes he checks me with the things that I've taught him. He's like, well, Mom, you gotta be kind, you gotta pray. You're speeding and honking at people. They have a driver's license too, just like, I'm like, so sometimes it's like he checks me, but I definitely named him Pharaoh because I wanted him to have a powerful name. And every time people call him Pharaoh, I think it's a constant reminder for him. And I think a lot of people don't think they could be anything because no one's ever told them. So, you know, Pharaoh, I knew his name was going to be Pharaoh. I was going to name him Tupac, but I realized I was
Now, see, I was going to go there. I knew that already. And you're beating me to this. I want to take a quick break because I was like, I almost thought for sure that you was going to name your son Tupac. Like, for sure.
His dad would not let me be great.
Because you are in love with the man.
Yeah, I am
like you told me so many times before, you know who I really love? Tupac.
I do have his name tattooed on my side. It's a you know. And
it's like, oh man, like I want to take a break. I want to come back and talk about Tupac.
Poetic justice.
Talk about poetic justice to poems.
Yes.
To books.
Yes.
Take a quick break. Play a little bit of music. I got Jodie Smith here, the author, The Beautiful Spirit. We'll be right back to talk about her books, energy, and more.
And Tupac.
Yes. It's the Roll Up, and I'm Dame Doja. We'll be right back. DOZHATOLDYA.COM